Welcome to the Making Up the Numbers podcast. The Making Up the Numbers podcast is sponsored by Hope Technology, Revolution Bike Park, Schwal, and the world's finest independent mountain bike magazine, Singletrack.
Episode 4 of Season 2. Still on lockdown, still looking at our downhill bikes and wondering when we'll get to ride them again. Still desperately trying to get our fix of racing. I'm George Thompson, and co-presenting the podcast with me once again tonight is SR Suntour One Vision Racing's Jack Redding. How are you doing, Jack? Any more jet washing and note this week?
No more jet washing. We have actually dug out my old PS2 though. Me and Sarah have got that board in the evenings now that we've pulled that out. So I was playing on Need for Speed Most Wanted last night. I haven't played on for about 15 years. The graphics,
that game brings back too many memories.
Yeah, the graphics are so bad you can barely see what's going on. But yeah, other than that, same old really.
Killing time. Before we get going, just a quick reminder that the video of this podcast will be available on the Singletrack YouTube channel, and it might actually be easier to watch this one. As tonight, we don't just have one guest on the show, we have 3. Joining us via Zoom are 2 of GB's young guns on the World Cup stage, Atherton Racing's Charlie Hatton, Polygon UR's Joe Breeden, and the gentleman who trains them both, Alan Milway. How are we getting on, gents? Welcome to the show.
How are we doing?
Cheers for having us.
Cool. Alan, if I remember correctly, your wife works in infection control. Is that right?
My wife edits a scientific journal. She edits the Journal of Antimicrobial Chemotherapy.
Right, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, rolls off the tongue. So, yeah, at the moment she's just working full-time from home. They've just published a paper on, I think one of the first papers on trying to explore this COVID-19. What is it? How could you treat it?
Yeah.
And a lot of the people she deals with, they're sort of like the health ministers almost of different countries. So yeah, there's me worrying about bike racing and she's worried about this bloody COVID-19. I feel, I'm very much second string in this household at the moment.
Puts things in perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have any insight into when this whole thing might be over or how close they are to cracking it?
No, not to be honest, not at all. They're looking at it from the science side of it, if you see what I mean, just like how they actually try and treat it. And yeah, it's too early to tell. I think it might be going on for a little while. To be honest with you, I think the biggest problem is going to be the politics, because in certain countries, like the Chinese, are used to being told what to do. If I'm honest with you, due to their sort of communist system, if they're told to stay indoors, they bloody well stay indoors. But in the UK, we're very, very different politically. So I think they have to be quite careful how they structure telling us what to do and for how long. Yeah. Because I think if they tell us to stay indoors for too long, too many people just rile against it. And I think we've also, round near me, I live in the countryside, and we get cars literally like that will dodge the police tape to park in a lay-by to go and walk their dogs. It's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, It is. Well, Joe, you were the guest on our very first podcast, which was roughly it was roughly this time last year. So let's start with a few questions for Charlie, if that's okay. And I'm going to start with a statistic, Charlie. 145 race results on Roots and Rain. Do you know how many of those races you've won?
Oh God.
Alan, Joe, anybody want to have a guess?
We talking
probably most of 2014.
2014.
I remember you sweep the whole national series that year.
Have you got a percentage, George, or a number?
It's roughly a percentage out of the 145. It's a decent percentage. Do you want me to just tell you?
50.
Oh, yes.
He's won 45 races out of 145, which is
pretty good going, isn't it?
a hell of a win ratio. You've won nearly as many races as I've entered. A lot of those wins came during the early years when you were on the Fly Up downhill team. Tell us a little bit about that time, and perhaps the thing I'm most interested in is, did it all come very easily to you at the start?
Well, I was pretty lucky, to be honest, where I live, Forest Dean.
Yeah.
As you know, big trail centre, loads of people riding there, and then also like grassroots racing. That's where your first race normally is, to be honest. Forest Dean. yeah, it's a great place to start.
Cool. And being on that team, did you kind of take to racing straight away? Was it like
No, it was a few years before I started racing. Obviously started riding when I was, God knows, 5, 6 years old with my brothers,
right?
just in the woods making jumps and stuff. And then, yeah, I probably started racing as a ripper as young as I could, probably. So
Yeah.
that was 11 years old. And then, yeah, progressed from there, really.
You winning from the get-go, Charlie?
No, not from the get-go. It was, I think I was third at my first ever race at FOD.
That's pretty good though, mate. I was 19th in my first ever race.
I was 16th at my first one.
Yeah.
Oh, hey. So yeah, it was third place first race, and then I think I might have been second. Then maybe I got on the top step then.
Cool. Well, 2015, you were a first-year junior, and you joined the Wide Open team.
Yeah.
And then at the start of 2016, Jack organised the trip out to Portugal, and he rang me and offered me the final spot on that trip, but I couldn't make it. And Binsey, one of my teammates who I think you guys know, he took it.
Yeah.
And he always tells me a story about going out for food with you all on an evening, and the waiter coming around and taking the drinks order, and it'd be water, Diet Coke. And then Binsey would feel really bad for saying, Peroni?
Yeah.
But when he got back, he said to me, they're all good riders, but there's this young lad, Charlie Hatton. He wouldn't say boo to a goose, but he's so fast. That year, you won the National Series title as a second-year junior. Junior is always a really, really competitive category. How important was it for you to win that title?
Yeah, it was pretty important, really. As a junior, you know, you're going into elite the following year, so you feel like almost an added pressure that you have to do well.
Yeah.
For, well, I guess the team to spot you and take you on into the first year elite.
So go on, George. Sorry.
So who were your main competitors that season?
Well, obviously Joe sitting there. Matt Walker,
right,
big competitor. Yeah, so it was.
Are they both a year younger than you?
Yeah, and then there was, I think, Elliot
Heap was in, wasn't he?
Yeah, Elliot Heap. James Purvis. So yeah, there was some fast boys.
Nice. So that 2016 year was the year you started racing World Cups, wasn't it? Did you do any in 2015?
Yeah, it would have been, yeah.
Yeah. So you started as a second-year junior at the World Cups. Do you feel it was a big step? Would you say it's a disadvantage starting as a second-year junior? How did you get on?
No, I did do a few races the first year.
World Cups?
Yeah, World Cups, yeah.
Okay, we've missed that.
Yeah, that was just... Well, it was pretty good times, really. Me and my dad driving through Europe, doing all the European rounds. Yeah, it was pretty sick, really.
Yeah. And then how did that second year junior go at the World Cups? You remember what your best result was?
I had a few sixth places, so nothing stand out really, but
you're competitive in the top 10.
Yeah, competitive top 10. I think I was in maybe top 10 overall, but yeah, nothing too amazing really.
Okay, so my team rider this year, Dan Slack, is a second year junior and he hasn't done any World Cups yet.
Yeah.
Any tips for him, would you say? What would you say as a second year junior, never having ridden a World Cup before? If we do go racing, what advice would you give him? Off the top of your head.
Yeah, just try and treat it like a normal race. I think as well, doing your first race as a World Cup in junior, it's just could be a recipe for disaster. So it's just race as if it's any other normal race. I know it's harder when you're sat in the start gate, but yeah, you just gotta try and control your nerves and do
your normal routine.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, just keep it what you know and don't try to change things. And
yeah, I think that's the big thing. I think I really struggled with the transfer to international racing, and I think that's because I started seeing it as like a different race. I started seeing it and thinking about all the people watching, like what everyone else was doing, like all the other riders, all the other fast riders, and obviously there's so many at World Cup. But when I started to get actually any good at World Cup racing, I just started treating it the same as a national or any other race. Because when you look at the bigger picture of the whole World Cup thing, you just start getting really tight.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Regarding Dan, does anyone know what will happen if there's no racing this season? I'm presuming juniors would just move up to elites.
Yeah,
Blanca.
that's going to be tough, isn't it? Because obviously they've missed the whole year and they're going straight into elite.
Yeah, that'd be a
Yeah.
horrible situation. You don't think? I don't suppose they can kind of put them in juniors for another year.
No, they wouldn't be able to leave them there. How they decide who went to elite, who went to expert, who knows?
I guess the only other option is to try and almost have an espoir category, you know, like in cross country, like an under 21 or an under 23 category that might bridge the gap. I think that, funnily enough, I was thinking about Luke Williamson the other day and thinking that he was one of the people that would be really effective, because if you think about your opportunity to get a contract, he's coming into this second year as a second year junior. That's when you're really you're trying to be on that podium. If you're on the podium week in, week out, you get picked up by a team for the next year. And it's a real shot window and quite an important shot window. I think that transition from junior up to senior is such a big one. And there's a lot of people that we all know who've had really good junior careers and never made the cut as a senior rider. And I think if you've not had that racing at the top end as a junior, it'll be even harder. You know, can you imagine if we don't go racing and then, like, where does Luke even start? He's basically got a foot, you know, using him as an example, but any junior, I think it will be very difficult.
Yeah, and I think off what you've just said there has made me think, and I've had the idea the thought whirring around my head recently of it's so hard now, it's top 60 for juniors to move up into elite and be competitive and qualify regularly within that top 60. I mean, we've got you two sat here who both did that successfully, but a lot of guys haven't done that. Henry Kerr last year is a prime example of a kid who is clearly fast enough to do it, but the pressure got to him. And yeah, with them leaving it as 60, it would almost make sense for the junior category to be extended by maybe a year or 2 years, so that those guys do get 3 years racing, 4 years racing at the highest level.
Yeah, I think that espoir category, like, it's really interesting. So I work with a lad called Joe Wooten, who races international motocross enduro, that Joe and Charlie both train with and know really well. And I think they're under 23, their junior category. And it really does allow them to build and build and build. So that transition to a senior class, he's made it seamless. You know, he's top 10 in the world. There's no problem. But I think if you were to do that, I think it's really difficult with downhills. Cross country, they've got an espoir category. They've got that transitional period to go up. You know, with such a physical sport where maturity is a big thing, you know, and I mean that in many different ways. It's really hard if you think about how much these lads have changed in 2 years. You know, that sort of 15 to 17, it's massive. And then all of a sudden you're like, right, good luck, you're racing Bruni. You know, it's mad, really.
Yeah.
Well, 2017, Charlie, you joined Intense and you moved up to elite. You win the national series in your first year. Kind of how satisfying was that? And did you think, oh, this is pretty easy for now?
Yeah, that was a hell of a year, really. It was there's some good company, obviously Joe and Lundy and all the others on the team. And yeah, it just all seemed to click into place. I was really happy on the bike. And yeah, everything was just a bit of a snowball effect, really. And race to race, it just almost got better and better. So yeah, it was a really good year.
Yeah, I was going to say, you had an incredible World Cup season that year. You had 3 top 20 results. And as a first year elite rider, that is brilliant. You were 11th at Val d'Isole at the end of it all. I guess you must have been really happy with the season.
Yeah, it was almost a shock to the system, really, because I remember first round in Lords, I was number 128.
Yeah.
So I was literally back of the pack, Group B, practice, early mornings. And then I ended up the race 17th.
Yeah, I remember it well. I remember standing with Will watching you come through and you went 17th and we both looked at each other and went, what?
Yeah, it was madness. And yeah, I dropped 100 numbers off my overall position then.
You protected him in the following race?
Yeah, and then it got more crazy from there, really. It was, I think I qualified 10th.
Yeah.
And then I finished around the 20s.
Didn't you have a
And I
crash?
went to a number,
Crash?
yeah,
I seem to remember you hurting yourself and just trying to get yourself back up after that qualifier for the Sunday.
yeah,
You crashed in finals as well.
I crashed. I think it was the run before finals, maybe.
When was this, Fort William?
Fort William, yeah. And then I got prepped. I wasn't sure if I was going to race. And then it was Todd it was Norco Racing, Factory Racing at the time. He helped me. And yeah, managed to race. Then I crashed in exactly the same spot.
Oh no.
Then yeah, I went into Leo Gang because I had a good qualifier and a okay result. I was number board 15 then, so top 20 protected.
Which was better than your junior board the year before, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was mad.
That was insane.
Yeah, really, really great season. So we then finished with World Champs in Cairns. I spent the week with you boys. We had that flat, and I know you wanted more from yourself than your result. I know from personal experience that track, small mistakes cost you big. I was 12th at the first split and then made a small mistake and ended up 25th. You were just behind me in 27th. Yeah. Was it anything specific that stopped you getting that kind of top 15 result that you probably wanted? Talk us through the weekend.
No, it was a tough weekend that. Yes, you need to be a strong pedaler on that track. And, well, at that point, that wasn't me. And yeah, but white ginger lad in
you did a lot of complaining.
They suffered a bit.
So the conditions played quite a part to how you were feeling by the end of it all.
Yeah, no excuses, but probably did hinder me a bit. But no, it was not my favourite track, but yeah, it was one of them.
Yeah, okay. So then 2018 comes around and you join Trek Factory Racing with the Athertons. How much of a change was that from moving away from Joe and the Intense lads and joining a huge factory setup like that?
Yeah, it was big change. So obviously we'd have a laugh around the pits and I knew them both really well, Joe and Lundy at the World Cups. And then it just went to this massive truck. I remember walking there first time, like, what do I do? Like, where do I put my bag? And then, yeah, it was a crazy first race. That was in Lozenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I, the pressure probably got to me a bit much there.
Easy for that to happen, moving on to a setup like that.
Yeah, it was a mad first few races, just getting used to it all. And yeah, it was mad.
Okay. All right, George.
Did the move to Trek, what did you start doing differently once you'd kind of joined Trek?
I wouldn't say I did anything differently. It was still the same sort of setup, really, like with racing, and my approach to racing was the same. But yeah, I guess there was a lot more support.
Yeah.
You're almost over pressuring yourself a little bit.
Yeah, maybe that was my first year where it was like a professional. That was my career.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like maybe that got to me a bit.
I think the way I saw it was the first year with actual expectations, like high expectations.
Yeah.
Because when you went into your first year elite, you were coming off an all right junior year, but I remember when we were doing an interview at the start of that year, you said, "I'd like to go top 40 World Cup. That'd be amazing." Mm-hmm. And then obviously you started doing top 10s, and that was like completely unexpected. And then you were just rolling from there. And then I suppose when you came into your year with Trek, you were thinking, "Oh, I need to be top 10. Like that's me." So maybe, I don't know. I think that was a lot of it from the perspective I saw it.
Yeah. No, it was a really tough year that year. It was Lozenge. I was way back. Qualified, I was like 38th, maybe 37th. So yeah, pretty bad result. And then the next race was Fort William, and I was 14th. So I was like, "Oh, mint, getting the ball rolling here."
Yeah.
Next race, Leo Gang, broke my wrist. And then it was 4 weeks then till Val di Sole. And I broke my scaphoid, so it was like touch and go whether this is going to happen. But I managed to race, qualified, and then had a massive crash on my race run.
Yeah.
So
So it's kind of a year of ups and downs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
you finished that season with a third at Hardline. Talk
Yeah.
us through kind of riding that track for the first time. How do you approach it?
Approach hardline, Christ.
Gross, big set of kahunas.
Yeah, well, Joe, you went this year. If I didn't
Really?
you? I think did you ride it this year?
Yeah, I had a good go this year.
Charlie, did you get to kind of, because you were on the team, did you get to ride it before the race?
Oh, no chance. You
No.
wouldn't want to either. That you do one full run in the qualifying run. That's enough, really.
Do you wish
You
there was
don't
more?
want to go and practice there.
Do you wish there were more tracks like that though?
Yes,
Not to
and no.
race
I
on.
think the rate of injury would be.
The attrition.
I think the year I did do it the year before when I was 2017,
Right.
and the rate of injury was 50%.
Right.
I think there was 22 and only 11 people then rode on qualifying day.
Right.
Okay, so you couldn't have that as a World Cup kind of track.
No,
It's
it
just-
would.
Well,
Yeah,
why would you guys say it is? Because like, obviously we do ride a lot of tough tracks, like
Yeah.
Valsor when you're flat out, like Andorra. Like, is it that some parts need to be better built, or is it simply that the terrain is just that rugged that there's nothing Dan can do?
Oh, the terrain is super rocky. But it's more the features. They're not. If they were straight jumps,
Yeah.
probably everyone could hit them. But because there's always like a Nadri rock garden you got to weave through, pump, and then it's just like
Okay.
big senders.
Or they're all
straight
on corners, like they're not just straight senders like loose fest. You just
Yeah.
like hit a speed tuck and then huck.
Yeah.
But it's just not that simple at hardline. Like there's a lot to
Every jump
take in mind.
work.
Yeah,
You've got to nail to get it right.
From watching on the screen, the bit that looks worst is the steep rocky section before the big road gap. That just looks like it wants to kill you.
Super
But I've never
tricky.
seen it.
Like you go around a really awkward left, and then it's like a rock roller, but the rock's all like out of shape.
Yeah.
And if your wheel tire isn't perfect in the middle, you'll just slide one way or the other. It's almost like trials riding that putt.
Yeah.
So the end of 2018, the Trek deal finishes, and there were so many rumours about where the Athertons were going and what they were doing.
Yeah.
When you found out they were kind of starting their own brand from scratch, were you concerned that they might kind of scale things down and you might be left without a ride?
No, I think it was when I was the last year we was on Trek. It was a 2-year deal that I'd signed.
Right.
So I was sorted going into next year. Brownie, the team manager, was keen, and everything just transitioned then over to the following year.
Cool.
Different bikes. Yeah, it was a change, definitely.
Cool. Let's move over to you, Alan, for a few questions. When did you start training Joe and Charlie? And at the kind of initial assessment stage, what were the first things you noticed?
So I've been working with Joe for, I think this is our 4th year, Joe. You're probably
Since I was 16.
Yeah, since Joe was 16.
Wow.
And what was really interesting is I was digging through, I don't know how I ended up getting on this, but I found some old photos when Joe was in like a football kit. One of our first sessions together, and we were working through some techniques, and it was fascinating to see like how much he's changed, like his physique and obviously the technical stuff. And I do a lot of videoing of the riders as they go for them to see where they should be and how we're adjusting it or whatever. So I've been with Joe basically his racing career, and Charlie came on board last year. So it was really cool to get Charlie on board. Like we were talking about it a little bit the year before, and I knew he'd fit the group really well because I try and keep quite a tight core of guys that I know get on and train well with each other, because I think that brings the best out of them. And when Charlie came, I remember doing a test with Charlie, and he was amazing at just being able to go again and again and again and again. And I was like, okay, so he's definitely got that side, that side of his fitness was really good. but aerobically he really wasn't. So it was just interesting to see that there's some things that you might think would lead to something else, but unless you test it, you don't know. And in some areas he was really good, in other areas he was weaker. So it's not a right or wrong, it's just the makeup of the person. And what was really cool was there were some areas that Charlie was way better than Joe, and Joe was better than Charlie, and so they could sort of pull and push a little bit. So yeah, it's been really cool. This winter we were gutted, obviously everyone was, but when we did like a final session before Portugal,
yeah,
and the boys, they just smashed everything, and the numbers were up, and we knew where we wanted to be, and we ticked every box, and everyone was buzzing, and I was so excited. And that session was one of those, like, it was one of those sessions. I remember Joe saying something about, like, have you seen, you know, any numbers like this? And I was like, in my entire career, this is the best. Basically, if you were just looking at the, like, where they were physically, I was like, my job's done here. Let's go. So yeah, one of them really.
Nice. You said there, Alan, that you've noticed areas where one's stronger than the other and vice versa. Are their training programs fairly similar, or is there an awful lot of tailoring going on?
Sometimes we do very much tailor it for the individual. Sometimes it's essentially a genetic thing. You're going to find someone's got a better engine. So if you've got someone who's, say, if we talk about aerobic engine, if someone's really good at that, you can almost get to a stage where they're good enough, and you go, right, we're okay there, we're good enough. And they could potentially work on other areas more. And you've got some people that are really good at something because they enjoy doing it, and they don't enjoy doing some of the other stuff to the same degree.
Yeah.
And that's why I quite like bringing, like, different riders together. And I think Mike Jones is a really good example. Like, Mike is an absolute ox, so powerful, so strong, he loves it. And then on the bike, some of the stuff where I'm like, come on man, you can do this, but we need to push you to do it. That's when bringing other lads in the room, and he can see it, and he's like, right, okay. So for him, like, he'll deadlift more than anyone else I know. Does he need to keep deadlifting to that level? And I've got to weigh up, yes, to a degree, because that's what he enjoys doing, but maybe pulling back from that 1% extra that he wants to make him more rounded in other areas. And that's the same with the other lads. They've got areas they're really good at. And Charlie's, like, upper body press has come on so much. His bench press is unbelievable. And that's just because we've had more focus on it for him.
Yeah, so that you've literally followed straight on to what I was going to ask you. Do you look for specific muscle kind of weaknesses in an athlete and try and look to improve and build on things that are standing out, rather than just staying with stuff that's good? But I think you've almost answered that already.
Yeah, that's it. It's just, I've got a load of, I've got like a big list of different KPIs that I look for. And over all my years of doing this, I know where people should be and what might be a weak area. Mm-hmm. And I just try and tease them up in everything to make them really rounded. Yeah. There'll be some that will excel at a certain area. And that's when you're always making a decision as a coach. Like, do we just keep going down this path? Like, Rachel Atherton's a really good example. She's like a proper V8 engine, and she's never going to be like, I was training her a Manon. A Manon was the polar opposite. So you're never going to make a Manon into a Rachel, or vice versa, just because of the genetics. So if you were trying to train one into the other, you just end up with a very average. They've not got what they really, really excel at. And they're never going to be at the same level on these other sort of fitness components. So you're always trying to make an informed decision on where do we go with it. And you're always looking at the sport, like the demands of the sport. And also you've got the individual athlete, because I know these boys are willing to, if I ask them to do something, if I give them a good reason for doing it and they understand it, they will do it. And that's mega. Like, the boys have both got watt bikes now at home. It's just awesome. You know, they've invested in it. We can set a session, we can get feedback. So I know that although a session might be slightly different for them, or one might do slightly more, I'm getting that feedback all the time to know whether we're going in the right direction, really.
Nice. Do you feel that throughout the racing calendar, there's time between races to kind of go, right, we're going to, let's say, for example, Lachine, super short track, and then 5 weeks later, we're going to Fort William, for example. Do you try throughout the year to look at what races are coming up and what track demands certain tracks have and then adjust? Or is it more just try and get that athlete where they need to be for the year and then maintain?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because strangely enough, I've actually been sat on my computer going through statistics today, and I've been looking through, I was looking through average race duration 2001, average race duration in 2011, and average race duration in 2019. And I was also looking at the difference between the men and the women, the percentage difference between the winning times. And interestingly, they've slowed. So the girls are the gap is getting bigger.
Really?
Those three, which is really interesting. But the reason I say that is I used to take loads and loads of data at races, okay? So heart rates and lactate and power crank data and time the race track. And what I found was, at the end of the day, these guys are all going absolutely flat out. There's no real pacing strategy. You don't really pace yourself. As you know, at Fort William, you might go, right, I've got a long race ahead of me. But as soon as you start pacing yourself, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
I always remember when I was coaching Danny, he always used to have quite a slow first split. He always used to kind of work into the track. And we always used to say, look, you've got to go to win that first split, and that will keep your momentum. And if you look at any of the guys who are winning the races, generally they go green, 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 green. You know, they don't start slow and then build up through the track.
Yeah.
So if you were to go, you know what, I'm going to prepare them for a lozenge track differently from another one. I don't believe, from my experience and my research, that it will make enough of a difference. My belief is, if I can prepare them for Fort William, Mount St. Anne, those style of tracks, they'll be fine. Don't worry about Croatia, you'll be fine. I'd say the only track that you throw in there is Peter Maritzburg. I'd say that's the only one that potentially, and we were, after the first year we went there, we were like, bloody hell, this is 50-second flat pedal in the middle. And people,
It's horrible.
yeah, it's like people putting droppers on. I played with chainring sizes. We looked at RPM. Do we change the RPM? Do we tuck? Do we actually recover? But then even on the next year we went back, they put some more jumps in there. So it actually staggered the pedal.
Yeah.
And that was the only one that I was like toying with, like, is that worth doing? But ultimately, the conditioning these guys have and the style of session we do, you'll be fine. You know, you're always going to feel tired at the bottom. Don't get me wrong. And if you're not, then you've not gone hard enough. So that's how I look at it.
Nice. How many times a week are these guys coming in to train with you? How many sessions are face to face and in the group, and how many are at home?
So what we do is we sort of we periodize it through the year. So over the winter, they're coming in quite regularly. Sort of every couple of weeks, they'll be in with me. Sometimes it's every week. It does depend. So Charlie went to South Africa over, but just before Christmas, and we came in and did more before that, so that he was really tooled up, ready to go. Joe, when he had an injury, he came in for a really extended period, really regularly, to get him through that. So we look at the calendar and we say, where are you going to be? Let's do some sessions before you're going away, so we've got a real routine. And then as we come into the season, the calendar really dictates it, to be honest. If sometimes it's really important, if I've not seen them for maybe 3 weeks because of racing back to back to back, that gap between races is really critical, because sometimes I remember having conversations with Joe to say no, and sometimes those are the most important. But you know, he can come in for a day and I can go, we're pulling back out of everything. And I've had sessions with Charlie. Charlie will remember them, where he's come in and he's not felt quite right, and we've looked at a couple of things, and I said, you're not going full ham today on this or that, because it won't help you. And if you didn't have that face to face, you just can't do it remotely. It's really difficult unless you've got loads of data, and you know, and even the data can lie, because these guys know their bodies so well. So if they're like, I'm not quite right, they're not trying to get out PE. You know, these guys, they know that they can't go to that limit. And that's what I've learned. These guys know their bodies so well. I've got to sometimes be almost the bad guy and go, don't do anything, stay at home, put your feet up, watch Netflix. And they're like, no, I should be doing something. And I'm the guy to say, maybe, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think the face-to-face is really important. Like, we'll come home, say after a block of racing, and we'll go in and we're feeling a bit dodgy. We've had some crashes, like, but we can't quite work out why my left knee sore, like I haven't hit it. But then we do some movement pattern stuff, and Milway can literally look at us and say, okay, like, this is why I think this is causing it. And it normally won't even be in my knee. It'll be like due to a tight quad or anything. I don't know. He knows a lot better than me. But then he can target that, and we can work through that before it gets any worse, and that we can hit the next race ready to go again.
Yeah.
But without having him look at us, I couldn't spot it. And I think just the knowledge and the experience he has, yeah, he can spot pretty much anything that we have.
Yeah, and then you'd carry on blindly training at home without that input, and potentially give yourself an overuse injury or something that would be a problem.
And the classic,
Yeah, exactly.
and with all the traveling, there's a lot of soreness that is quite easy to get in the lower back, and it's nothing to do with the back. It's generally in the anterior that's tightened up. And a lot of these things, unless you know, sometimes I can see and they'll walk in the room and I'll go, bloody hell, you're tight in hip flexors or the quads or, you know, something, or ankle, and they wouldn't have even realized it. It's just that I'm so used to looking at them move and walk, and I'll get them to do these patterns. The first 15, 20 minutes of the session is a lot of stuff that's there for me, just to look at them and see them, how they're feeling, what's tight, what's sore, and then you can make an appraisal on where we go.
Having trained 6 world champions, Alan, is that experience the thing that sets you apart from most other trainers, do you think?
I tell you what's really interesting. So when I worked with Danny, my coaching was really scientific focused. It was real physiology based. It was more training plan based. Yeah. And then as I sort of moved on from Danny to work with the Athertons, it was much more hands-on. I did a lot more strength and conditioning. I saw the value in making someone strong, and I had a real focus on that. When I left the Athertons, I made a decision that I wanted to basically control the environment a little bit more, and I based myself at the University of Birmingham. And to me, that's where I really developed the most. And it's because of the number of people I'm around, the environment that I'm in. So in the gym we train at, it's a performance gym. Yeah. And so there's sports scholars, international athletes, boxers, runners, high jumpers, rugby players, and they're all in there with their coaches. And these guys are all degree educated, further degree educated, and they'll question me, I'll question them, I'll learn stuff all the time. And to be honest, I think that is where I'd like to think my experience and my knowledge comes from, is that base that I've been around. I think if I was one man in my own facility, seeing 1 or 2 athletes a week, I'll get to know those athletes, but I don't think I'll broaden my horizons. And I'll learn a lot from working with amateur riders that I'll go, I see, that's why, you know, because amateur riders are easier to coach in some respects because the movement pattern's way worse, but you can learn a lot from them, and you just understand the body better and understand movement and understand strength and how it impacts just through being around athletes, really.
Yeah. Those world champions that you have coached, do they hit the highest numbers in the gym? And does that kind of correlate to being the fastest rider on track? Or is it simply that kind of you get all the riders to a certain level, but then natural ability kind of takes over?
So let's start by saying, I don't race the bike down the hill. Those guys are the ones that race. My job is to put them in the best possible place. So all they worry about is getting down the hill as fast as they can. So that might be 95% of it is away from the track. But when I'm at a track with them, you know, looking at line choice, advising them on warm-ups, making sure they've got the right food, all of that is just to take the stress. All they're doing is riding their bike. But having said that, it's really interesting if you actually were to go through the individuals. So Danny, maybe 4 weeks before Champery, he put in a VO2 max where he was over 70 millimoles per kilo. It was unbelievable. It was like, this is a, you know, milliliters. He was really, really high VO2 max. Okay, so that was a huge number that we saw. And he then went on and achieved. I'm not saying that had anything to do with it, but that was a very high figure. If you look at Rachel, pretty much the highest power output of a female athlete, and she'd probably qualify for track sprinting, you know, Olympic Games if she wanted to in that realm. She's incredibly powerful. G, super power. The height before these two boys got to where we were at the beginning of this season, highest power output I've seen. Incredible sprint repeat. Very, very strong, very powerful athlete. Manon, again, aerobically, she was awesome. She could probably be a time trialist. So if you think about where those athletes are, I don't think that's my coaching, if I'm honest with you. That's their nature. And all I've got to do is try and spot where to push more, you know, to get that, let's make you really good at this, minimize the weak areas, and you'll be the best rounded package. So I think that the reason why they're world champions is because they've got these assets. But above all of these guys really want to win. Like, above all, I think that, you know, when you look at them, they've all got that bit of an edge, and you're like, oh, bloody hell, you know, they don't want to do that. They do want to do that. They're willing to push this. They're willing to do the work. And I think that was really always been really interesting to see for me.
Do you think it's kind of impossible nowadays for a World Cup rider to be at the top without having a trainer?
No, I don't think so, really. I think that there's lots of things going on when you're at a World Cup, and there's a lot of, ultimately, you need to be fit, you need to be able to ride your bike really well, and you need your bike set up really well as well. I think that at this level, if something goes wrong, you're suddenly blown out the back of the pack. There will always be riders that are incredibly talented. They don't have any stress. They're not worried about anything. They turn up, they race, and they will do really well. I don't think you need a trainer for that. What I do wonder is to be consistent in that approach does require some form of planning. Yeah. So, you know, whether you want to formalize it with a trainer, whether you think that whether you think you need that, I think a lot of the guys, it would help them, shall we say.
Joe, Charlie, can you imagine not having a trainer?
Me personally, no, not at all. There's far too many things I ask Milway on a weekly basis that I wouldn't want to answer myself. And from being with him since I was 16, like, I can put a lot of my like the way I am physically now down to like the backlog of training I've had with him. Before that, I was training off what I learnt myself, but it was just nowhere near the same level of detail and knowledge that Milway has.
Yeah, exactly. Same as Joe, really. I really enjoy having a day-to-day plan, really. So wake up in the morning or have a look the night before. I know exactly what I've got to do that day, and just makes it so much easier. Never second guessing, really.
But yeah, completely agree with what Charles said then, but it's the fact that I can trust that whatever's on the program is what's probably best for me. So I know that if I do what is set, then I am doing whatever I can to be the best physical shape I can be. And that's because from just doing what he said, obviously the first year, maybe the second year, you don't know like how the training will affect me. What he's setting is actually what is changing. But then over the years, because I've been with him 4 years now, and I've just stuck to what he said, and I have seen the results grow massively in the gym, on the watt bike, on the road bike, and at the races. So from having done as he said, basically, and seeing the results, that's just given me faith in the program, so that we wake up, we do the program, and we know that we've done everything we can, as long as we've given that whatever's in the day-to-day basis our best effort.
Jack, you've changed your trainer this off-season. How big an impact has it had on you?
Sorry, Charlie, that was for you. I interrupted.
No, sorry, it wasn't. It was for you, Jack. I was asking you.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was talking at the same time as you started, and I thought you were asking Charlie. Yeah, I mean, I when I was at university, which I went to uni in 2008, my coach then, who is now a doctor, was great. And I trained with him for years, but he didn't have any other mountain bikers. So about maybe 4 years ago, I kind of stopped seeing Nick as much. We're still mates, but we got to a stage where my program wasn't changing and developing. And I just had this like bank of things that I would do. And they just kind of get put together. So things went stagnant and I wasn't improving. I wasn't noticing any strength improvements, any real cardio changes. It just plateaued. So I kind of started changing things myself, noticed a little bit of a ramp up, and then somebody just put me and Johnny together. And it's like what these guys just said. It's the structure. It's instead of just guessing from this pile of exercises I know I can do, it's being given a structure and a plan and the testing and seeing things improve. And then the biggest thing for me off the back of it is how I feel on my bike. Like, I can do anything in the gym, but if I don't get on my bike and feel awesome off the back of it, I ain't going to ride fast. Whereas if I get on that push bike, start riding a track, and that bike just feels like this little light thing underneath me that I can just throw around and hammer through rocks and get a landing a little bit wrong, and my body just goes, whatever. That's what then makes me push on and develop speed throughout the weekend. So yeah, I completely agree with what these guys just said, really, about the structure and having the faith in what you're doing. And that was leading me on to what I was going to ask you to. Are you more motivated as well to train, knowing that you've got Alan looking at what you're doing and prescribing you things? Would you train as hard if you were just doing your own thing throughout the week?
I'd say not, because half the competition is between me and Charlie. Never mind the races.
Nice.
If he beats me in something or I beat him in something, well, Charlie, you can answer that. We both want to be better, so that pushes us big time. And we talk on a daily basis through like the sessions that day and the numbers we hit and how we felt and how we why we think we're better in different areas and what we could do to try and both be better at everything, I suppose.
Yeah, so you're not just training harder, but you're doing better things as well. So it's
I think it's smarter, not harder, for sure.
Alan, aside from Joe and Charlie, are you allowed to say which other World Cup riders you're currently working with?
I work with a South African called Greg Minnaar.
I've not heard of him.
Never heard of him.
Yeah. So it was funny. I was on the phone to him earlier, and my daughter was like, "Who is this Greg Minnaar you're talking to?" Like, my daughter's 6, and she was just like, "Get off the phone to Greg." It was really quite funny. I work with Greg. Obviously, him being in South Africa, there's a lot of phone calls and WhatsApps. It's done in quite a different way. He's been working with a guy called Stefan Girard, who is an absolute legend. Like, to me, it's really interesting. I was looking through an article I wrote for Dirt for like their 15 years maybe, or their 20 years. And I remember talking about Stefan Girard and how because he was like Vulios's coach.
Yeah, I was going to say, did he train
Gal, Ancaro, Gracia, and Greg, and been with Greg for a long time. And so I sort of came on board to help with the strength element and really work on that and sort of work in conjunction with Stefan. And that's been really, really cool. So I'm in touch with Greg a lot from that side of things on an international, remote basis. But when he was in the UK, I was able to do a lot with him because to me, that's really important.
Is he like a bit of an anomaly, really, having worked with him? Because it doesn't look like he's ever put a huge focus on strength, but,
Well, it's really, so, we were talking about these different figures that people hit and, what they're really good at, et cetera, et cetera. So I went up to Sheffield. I was invited up by the syndicate team. PT invited me up to Sheffield, Hallam, and they flew in Luca, they flew in Loris, Greg came in, and we had basically a bit of a mini training camp. And I was able to lead the training camp for the team and try and help them understand where they were at, maybe where they could focus, and sort of give them tools that they could almost go back home with and sort of implement with their coach, or I could help advise or liaise or what have you. And looking at Greg specifically, aerobically, unbelievable. The guy's just incredible. And that was on and off season. Like, when you look at the numbers, for that time of year, it really, I was like, wow. But strength-wise, it was nothing to write home about, but then he's never had much of a focus. But when I was explaining to him how I felt I could help him and how it related to how he might feel on the bike, you could see him nod his head. And I was like, brilliant. I think I've got him understanding where I'm coming from. Yeah. Because just like Jack explained really well, if you don't feel it on the bike, it makes no difference. You know, it's really interesting. I always say I'm not trying to train these guys to be weightlifters or whatever. So if they're squatting heavy, there's a reason for doing that links to the bike. Or if they're doing miles and miles on a road bike, there's a reason for doing that on the downhill bike. And it's when you sort of forget that and you go down this rabbit hole. And I'm in that really lucky position. I'm not trained to race. I can do the stuff that I just want to do for fun. You know, it doesn't have to translate for me. I can, you know, go down my little rabbit hole of enjoying my stuff, but I know that I wouldn't do that with them because it doesn't translate. But yeah, so with Greg, that was something that we're able to put together, and it's been really cool because although he's been training for decades, he's still relatively new to this style of training. So the percentage increase has been massive. And again, he was ready to go, you know, and it was really frustrating to hear how well things were going in Portugal for testing and all of that. So that's frustrating. And then, like we mentioned, Mike Jones, obviously before, been working with Mike for a couple of years now. And I think that Mike's one of those riders, these guys will say he's so talented on the bike. He's got all the ingredients are there. And I thought Leger was that time, to be honest. I don't know if you saw that run in Leger, and he was there. He was absolutely there. And then he came off in
that second split, wasn't he?
Yeah. So it's a lovely group. I work with a number of other amateur riders. I work with quite a few guys, but to be honest, I've never been one just to take on loads and loads of people. It's not like, whether you call it a business model, whether you call it the way I work, that's never been my focus. I always want to enjoy. I'm really lucky. I have such a good time. We get the drum bass on. We all know what we're doing. It's really good. I really do enjoy my job. I'm a lucky guy.
You've talked about the world champions that you've worked with and how they're all kind of different. What would you say is your biggest achievement in training someone? And is there anyone where you feel that kind of your input really elevated them to the next level?
Yeah, well, there's been a few situations, and to be honest, the most satisfying training I can do is when I'm able to help someone come back from a potentially career-ending injury. That to me is a really, really important thing. There are elements of it's almost the near misses sometimes. Like there's a few cases I remember seeing Rach come through a rock garden in Hafjell, and she got it all wrong, and she was literally bench pressing herself back off those bars, carried on, you know. And I was like, well, if she hadn't worked so hard all winter, she'd have been down, you know, flames. But like Taylor Vernon's horrendous injury, his broken back. I worked with him really closely for that entire process with the surgeons all the way through that. And then to see him like win a Junior World Cup was incredible. And Joe, like in all honesty, like that injury that Joe had, there's many, many people that would be walking with a walking stick right now, and they wouldn't be racing bikes. And it takes a lot of dedication on his part to put that effort in. And it takes a lot of like collaboration with physios, with surgeons, you know, using all the pieces of kit available and a lot of graft. But that is a really satisfying bit, because ultimately you can get caught up in the result.
Yeah.
I don't think I checked myself once years ago in Wyndham. I won't go too much into the story, but I could see I was getting caught up in the result, and I was getting really like fist pumping and, you know, really pumped up with the result. And I was like, this is not the way to go, mate. You know, this is not your almost not your fight. You're getting these guys ready to do that. You just need to be that sort of calm influence.
Yeah.
But yeah, Joe's injury, I think that side of things is really good. And then I have had some people where I felt as though if it had worked better, or I don't know, there's been a couple of athletes. I think Breeden, I had a really good couple of years with Breeden Fairclough, and just because of the nature of that guy's schedule, it's just mental. It was so hard to get him onto a coherent plan, because I think that guy could be on World Cup podiums week in, week out, but I don't think that the focus is there. And that's not derogatory to Breeden at all.
Yeah.
Like he's got so much else going on. And I think he probably earns more money from his grip sales than a lot of World Cup riders earn in salary, you know. So I don't knock it at all. But I think that if you had Breeden as a pure racer, it'd be fascinating. I don't know if Breeden is going to be upset if I don't call him a pure racer, but you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So, off the back of what you're just talking about with Joe there, Alan, I'm going to put you on the spot here. We've been told that he maybe trains harder and puts in the most effort out of everyone. Is that true?
I say that.
Oh, mate, I'm here.
Numbers don't lie, Joe. We've all seen the numbers, mate. Charlie's numbers. No. I tell you what's really interesting. You know, when you talk about training hard on one another, to me, what's really cool is the group of people, and the fact that I did a session with Charlie and Joe wasn't in. I don't know why, but Charlie was in 1 week and Joe wasn't. Normally he'd have been with him, and Charlie did some unbelievable stuff. And I remember it's not my position to go texting people or put it on the bloody internet. That's not my job.
No.
And I kept my mouth shut. That's my relationship with Charlie. And by 5 o'clock that evening, Joe was like, bloody hell, what's Charlie gone and done? I can't believe that.
Literally, I was in New Zealand, I remember the exact text. Yeah,
it was so cool. And to me, that really sums it up. And I think they all work really, really hard. I think that it's the mindset. I think Joe's mindset is quite similar to Dan Atherton's mindset. It's like quite straight. I'm going to do this. This is how I'm going to do it. Blah, 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 blah. And it's different from others, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's harder, but it's very methodical.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, you've got no slackers in that gym. Everybody's putting in everything they should be.
To be honest, we have had some slackers come through the doors, and I've worked with. I'm going to piss off the whole of the motocross industry now, but I've worked with quite a number of professional motocross riders, and a number of those guys, I'm like, I don't think they quite understand the nature of how hard maybe they need to work, but maybe I don't understand how hard they need to work on a motorbike. And I've worked with some fantastic, GP riders, and I'm certainly not tarring everyone with the same brush, because, but it's, I'd say when you put a motor in there, it gives you the opportunity to spend $3,000 to go faster, and people like to do that. They enjoy doing that. But on a mountain bike, it's a bit harder to do that. I can basically go out and buy all your bikes. I can get them tuned up. The motor is you, really, isn't it?
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, me and Joe have shared some watt bike training stats. Don't worry, Joe. Won't blow your cover. But to be honest, what we did share, I was pretty blown away by the numbers he told me. Mike was there to vouch for him, and I know Mike's not going to give anybody anything that isn't true. So, and that, I'm no messer when it comes to training. So I was pretty impressed. Would you say that there's an area of fitness that comes easier to Joe, or so do you kind of structure his program around certain things?
So I'd say that it's just like I was talking about earlier, really. Aerobically, Joe's very, very good. So he's got some of the best numbers that we're likely to see at the university in that respect, in that area. So it's my job to keep pushing them, but maybe not add any more volume to them, because there are other areas that I know he could be better at, and he knows that he wants to be better at. Yeah. But I think he'll always.
He's not
he'll always find that will be a difficult. More difficult for him, and that's where everyone's just different. And Charlie's ability to go again and again and again in certain things is incredible. And the way he's like, if you were to plot it on a graph, like Charlie's improvement, it's just been unbelievable over sort of 18 months. And that's really exciting. And I think if you talk about work ethic, you do not get that work ethic from a piece of paper in front of you telling you the best training plan. You know, it doesn't matter. That is actually putting in the hours and doing the work. Yeah. So that, you know, all credit to Charlie on that, because that's unreal. And there were some things that we've worked really hard on. Like, I don't want to give away some of the all of the areas, but there was a couple of areas when Charlie came in, I was really concerned. I was like, how are we going to get around this? Because this is causing problems. And we've worked so hard on lots of different ways to improve. And it's Charlie going away and doing it and trying something, and let's do this, and maybe this will help. And it's just a collaboration. It's not me just going, crack on, boys. We'll always debate it and discuss it, because they, you know, and they'll tell me whether they don't like something. We've tried some stuff, you know, that I think will work really well. And these guys are so honest. They're like, don't like it, doesn't work very well, makes me sore, this is a problem. And so I go away and I come back. It's not my way or no way sort of thing. It is definitely collaboration.
Yeah. So from the stats you've got over the years, once these guys start performing at a level that you know is really high for a certain activity, say it's a 3 spotlight test or whatever, do you then go, right, that's the ceiling, we don't want to drop away from there, but that's good, and then shift focus onto other things? Or do you search for more and keep trying to push them?
It's like you've got maybe 25 different little like faders and levelers, and you're just trying to work on the best. I can imagine it's a bit like a producer in a studio, just trying to get everything just about perfect.
But every record's different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the thing is that it does come down to the athlete as well, because ultimately, if you've got a stat, say Charlie's got a stat that he's really happy with and he loves a certain exercise. If I was like, Charlie, you're good enough at that, mate, we're moving on to something else. After a week or two, he'll be like, I want to go back to doing that because I actually really enjoy it. Yeah. And I've learned the hard way of being too, like, not taking the athlete into account enough, because I'm like, doesn't fit my spreadsheet, mate. That doesn't fit the way I'm looking at it. And I've learned that, and I've understood when to, like, I learned it. There was one incident that really jumped out at me, and we were at training camp in Spain. And I remember I had 5s on the program. So it doesn't matter, don't worry about it. It's 5 reps. And G was in the gym, and it was 5 reps for a certain exercise. And he just made it look so easy. And I remember he was like, can we go up on weight? Can I see how much I can do? And I was like, no, because it's 5s on the program and then we're moving on. And I remember coming away from that thinking I missed an opportunity here, because he could have lifetime PB, walked out of that gym on air. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Giving him more confidence,
more buy into the system. Yeah. And it was a really good learning experience for me to go, you know what, there's got to be, these guys are the ones that are important. And if they're happy, and they're like, they always say that adhering to an average training plan is way better than not adhering to the best training plan. Yeah. So I've got to give them a reason to want to do it, really.
Yeah. Cool. Back to you boys then.
Sorry, my internet cut out. I went out at an exciting time. What have I missed?
I don't think you missed anything. You can hear us now.
Yeah, I'm back. My internet just went bang, like.
No problem. So back to you boys then. 2019. I'm going to quickly whiz through the results, because there's something big picture that I really want to ask you about. First half of the season, Maribor, Charlie 33rd, Joe 59th, but you qualified 12th in the rain. Fort William, Charlie 24th, Joe 56th. Leogang, Charlie 27th, Joe 38th. Valnord, Charlie 52nd, Joe 38th again. And Leger, Charlie 38th, and Joe DNQ. If you average out those finishes, Charlie 35th, Joe 48th. That's not including kind of the Leger result. Then we arrive at national champs, and you both do incredibly well. Charlie, you're second. Joe, you come third. Before I come on to that race itself, let's just chat about the impact of that result, because if you take the average of your finishes at the final 3 rounds, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Charlie 20th, Joe 27th. So Charlie, that's a jump of 15 places, and Joe 21 places. It's like you can visibly see the impact of confidence.
Yeah.
Is that quite simply what happened, or were there other factors at play?
There is so many factors that go into it. I think, confidence. I think that's a massive one. Obviously, that result at Revolution Bike Park, that then, well, I know it set me up for the next few races that were really good. Also with the bike,
Right.
I probably jumped on the bike in February, the start of the year, and then from there till just before that race, to be honest, it's a completely different machine now.
Right. Okay.
So I think, them things combined just added up, really.
Joe?
That's a cool comparison you had there. I never really looked at it that way. But yeah, I'd say leaving national champs, there was definitely a big confidence boost. Coming back to the UK, somewhere I feel really comfortable, somewhere I feel like I can win. I felt like I performed at a really good level there.
Yeah.
And then after that, I spoke with Milway, I spoke with Charlie, I spoke with my parents, and kind of got a better understanding of the way I rode at national champs and why I can't do that at a World Cup. And there was no reason why I couldn't. It was just the mindset and the way I kind of had an overview of the different events. So it was kind of, for me, confidence boost massive, but also the way I tried to transfer from a national to a World Cup.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we've established there that confidence is just a massive thing. Alan, from your experience working with so many riders, do you think confidence is harder to build and maybe then maintain in these younger athletes rather than older athletes, say example G?
Yeah, massively. And I guess going back to our junior conversation we're having, I don't know whether that was even pre-recorded at the very beginning, about the importance of sort of getting that junior experience internationally. To me, it's all about being comfortable. We see guys that are really good on a national level just because they turn up and they're comfortable. They feel like if they do okay, they'll be in the top 10. And that almost takes a bit of pressure off. They're like, you know what? I'll be in the top 10 regardless. So I can now really push on. But at a World Cup, I think if you're like, if I do okay, I'm never even going to qualify. I've got to do something above and beyond. And it's been really interesting because one of the riders that I really felt you could see this in, there's 2 riders that I think are really good examples. One is Marty Mays. I worked with Martin as a junior, on World Enduro when he was on the Athertons.
Yeah.
And this guy he put in a stage win and then he'd crash and then he'd break something and then he'd crash and then he could never get any consistency. And I remember as he was starting to get a bit older and a bit more, the guy's really mature anyway, but I remember asking him when it started to click, I was like, what's made the difference here? And he just said, I know that I don't need to do anything different. I just need to ride like me. That is good enough. And that, I think, is such an important lesson to know that when you're at a World Cup, just because Minar's about to go in front of you in practice, or just because you're coming to a section and Sven Martin's there telling you you've got to go inside line because that's the line to be on, it messes with people's heads so much because there's a lot of pressure and they don't have that trust in themselves. Because ultimately, if you're at a World Cup, fair play. You know, you're one of the world's best at what you do. And all of a sudden you're double guessing yourself and you don't think you're good enough. And you're going back to a hotel room where your bike's upside down in the corner because you don't have a big budget. And you're like, oh, but these guys are in big motorhomes and I'm out the back of a car and my toolkit's in a shoe bag. That's the stuff that messes with people's heads, on many levels. And I'd say another athlete last year that was so frustrating for me and obviously frustrating for him was Joe Smith, because Joe really struggled to get it together internationally. National champs had an unbelievable result, 4th, a gnat's whisker off the podium right there. And then he finishes hardline let's be fair, the guy would have won hardline, I think is fair to say, if he didn't have a puncture. You know, he where he's comfortable and when he's not stressed about one thing or another, that gives you that confidence. And that is a really tricky thing, because the psychology of any racing is incredible. And the guys who are at the very top are able to harness that and see competition as a positive, you know, and they don't second guess themselves.
Yeah, and I think with these, certainly with the younger lads that I've experienced on my race team, they ooze this like natural confidence, and it's then, do they have the ability and the structure around them once something goes wrong, say they don't qualify or something like that, can they then recover from that with maybe nothing other than a couple of gym sessions before the next race? And it's like my current junior Dan, he's by far the most talented rider I've ever had the opportunity to have on the team. My other guys won't mind me saying that. He won the British Junior Series last year, and throughout all the pre-season stuff, he's just oozing confidence. And for me, somebody who's been racing World Cups 10 years, I found it quite strange for a kid who's 18 years old with only one season under his belt to just be so naturally confident and just want to hunt me down and beat me all the time. And
that's not, I guess that's not at a race though, because I think
that's what I was getting to.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be really interesting to put Dan, hopefully we can soon, in that environment and see if that natural confidence, can he stay calm? Can he do, like you said, not do anything differently and just ride his bike, because he's incredibly fast. And yeah, it's just so interesting seeing these massively confident people basically sometimes go to shit at World Cups. I've seen it many times.
Yeah, because I wonder whether confidence is the right word almost. I almost think it's naivety, because they've got this, it's like a blissful ignorance to the big picture, because when everything goes well, it's easy. There's no problem. There's no pressure. We can all do it. You know, these guys are so good on bikes. It's amazing to watch them. And like referencing your lad, there's no stress. He's in a no-lose situation hunting you down.
Exactly.
There's nothing to lose there. He'll only look good. You drop him, you bloody well should do.
Exactly.
He's on your back wheel. Hey man, look how good I am. You know, I'm some 18-year-old lad. And at a race, it's very, very different. And that's, I know with Luke Williamson last year, that was a real difficult thing, because he had like a tyre blown off a rim because they had a bad batch of tyres, and then that threw him, and then other things make him second guess himself, and then he tries too hard, and all of these things, that is, you can't replicate. And these, you know, I think Charlie's season where he had no expectation, like we were saying, and he could be Charlie Hatton, you know what I mean? Just be Charlie Hatton. That's all you need to be. And it's really, it is difficult, but I guess, yeah, I'm sure these guys, and Charlie, for you, I think, like you alluded to, if you could just be left to be you, you know, and don't have any of that other stress, that's why I think it helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. That year, well, my first year in Elite, I had literally no expectations, and the racing was almost, it was easy. Yeah. I didn't have any stresses. I didn't have any worries. I was just riding my bike, and yeah, obviously the results came from that.
Yeah. And do you think when you went to America and your bike got lost and you had to scramble, do you think that almost put you in that position where you're like, well, you know what, I'll just be me and see how I get on?
Yeah, kind of. That race more so, I don't really feel I rode particularly well in qualifying. I feel everyone else rode worse. I went 5 seconds quicker in finals on a very similar track, which I was very happy with that run on that bike given the circumstances. And I ended up 15 spots back. I personally don't think I rode better then. I think that was just that everyone else went slower for some reason.
Conditions.
But the expectations thing, I completely agree with. But in that one incident, I don't feel I rode very well at all, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd back you up there, John. The evidence for that is there were only 79 men at that World Cup. And I think a lot of people, myself included, knew that once they got halfway down that quali run on a good one, you knew you'd done the job. And that tallies in with exactly what you've just said, Joe, that your finals time was 5 seconds quicker, but you lost a lot of spots. But still, an incredible job to get on a bike that you threw together in a car park. I remember seeing you on the Friday and you were just sat on that curb like...
I think that's
Literally.
So, yeah, it was very impressive.
Yeah.
Let's just go back a sec to national champs. It was at Revolution Bike Park. It was on Ginger Bobcat. There's a gap on that track that's called the Charlie Hatton Gap.
Yeah.
It's about as close to... Joe used to be on the Revolution team. It's about as close to home field advantage as you two are going to get. How big a factor was that in the weekend, do you think?
Yeah, go for it, Joe.
Yeah, definitely it helped. It's not going to be a disadvantage. There's more pressure, but being who we are, we can deal with that. So it wasn't really a problem. So yeah, we definitely had advantage on our side, but at the end of the day, it was a 2.5 minute track, and there was hardly any lines. There was not that much to learn. So within a day of practice, I think most people got up to speed. I know Danny was there the week before practicing as well.
Yeah. Well, everybody rides it, don't they? I mean, Breeden would know it, Jack will know it.
But I'd say more so for me, it was that feeling of being at home. It was somewhere where I was really comfortable. I felt like I belonged there and I was confident there. So that was probably more playing my side than actually knowing the track, because everyone could learn the track in a day. Yeah. And as I said, most people have been there practicing beforehand anyway.
I think races like that as well, because as you just said, we're used to racing on the world circuit, and you'll either go one way or the other at a UK race. I think Reese touched on this when he came on the podcast, that you'll either go the way of same attitude, same focus, I'm going to win this one. And I remember I felt that like that at Llangollen when I won the national I won. And I just knew from when I got there that I had a good chance. Whereas when I got to Revs, the track is quite sketchy. You can wash out really easy on that kind of slate. And I just knew 2 or 3 runs in, I was like, I am not going to podium at this race. No chance. And I just spent the weekend fighting that feeling of, like we said, lack of confidence, feeling like I was going to get beat by people who technically I should beat. And you guys, Joe Smith, I was watching you come through in practice and it was like, whoa. And yeah, you could just see that you'd harnessed what you knew about the track and you were like, right, we're going to have it. And
coming back to what you said about feeling you have like a chance of winning it, I think you said at the national, you said you think you had a really good shot at winning it. I think that was definitely, like, I couldn't agree more with that. At national champs, I went in believing that there was no reason why I couldn't win it. So that's like an extra motivator, like more confidence. And then on top of that, you do ride better and you've got that bit more adrenaline in your body to push that a little bit harder.
Yeah.
So yeah, I couldn't agree with that anymore.
Yeah, I think that the easiest way of putting that in layman terms for people is when I feel like what you've just said, how you felt, I don't use the brake levers as much. And that all just adds up. When I feel like how I felt, I'll a little bit of brake into that turn. Oh, I'll use a little bit there. Oh, I don't feel like I've got much grip there. I'm going to brake a bit more. And
you definitely don't feel invincible.
Yeah, it just adds up so much. People don't realise how much that just tick, 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 and all of a sudden you're 5 seconds where you would have been.
Those final 3 rounds of 2019 then.
A question.
Yeah.
Of course.
I was going to say, Joe, how, you know, when you said it, like at Revs, when you had that feeling like you felt you could win, like what do you think it would take at a World Cup to turn up at World Cup and go, I'm good to go here? Is that a team thing? Is that an environment thing? Is that an age thing? Is there, you know, like it sounds stupid, but you understand why these big teams, they take their own pillows and their own beds with them and they have the same chef, because if you can have that feeling, you know, I feel at home on the other side of the world, you know, what do you think, what do you think could...
That's a very good question, and I'm still waiting for that feeling. I can't wait for the day that I do have that feeling that I can go to World Cup and feel the same way as I do at a national. But for me, like, this is the first year on a big team, so immediately I feel 20% more confident, 30% more confident. I've got people around me helping. I've got advantages with lines on track and working closely with teammates, mechanics, all of that. So immediately my confidence is up by 20, 30%. So that's going to help. And then when you start doing well, so like at the back end of last year for me, when I was putting in all right runs and I was in and around the top 20, top 30, and I had several top 20 qualifying, and you do it consistently without feeling you did anything special, that's when you really start to believe that you belong there. And I think it's just narrowing that ladder closer and closer towards the top of the field. And hopefully one day it will feel like every World Cup you go to, you can win. And that in itself has just got to be a massive, massive confidence booster.
Yeah. What about you, Charlie?
But it will take some time.
Yeah, that's it. I think there are so many things on the checklist that you need to tick off for you to have that feeling. I don't think it's an easy feeling to get, else, well, everyone would have it. Yeah, it takes years and years of experience and knowledge to be able to know that you can turn up to a race and do well.
Yeah.
I think going back to revs, it was I probably done 3 or 4 runs, and I think Joe mentioned it, I almost felt invincible, like I was through, I don't know if everyone will know the track, but there's a section in the middle, it's so tight, corner to corner.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, it just felt like I was the best I'd rode in a long, long time. So yeah, it was a big confidence booster, and yeah, ended up second. So that definitely helped.
I think one more thing quickly on that is when now we're getting into our 20s and we're kind of physically in competition with all the other top riders, you think, well, I've thought this off season that knowing the numbers that I've done, that there can't be anyone that's drastically better than that. That's given me confidence that physically there's no reason stopping me there for a bit at the top. So that's another like confidence boost, like box ticks, if you know what I mean. And I think it's getting all the boxes ticked over the stage to getting you to the top. And that confidence, you need to be there.
Absolutely.
Anyway, yeah.
Cool.
Crack on, George.
Those final 3 rounds of 2019, Val di Sole, Charlie, you had a stormy. You qualified 12th and finished 11th. But Joe, you won seeding, finished 25th. Talk us through that weekend for you.
For me?
Yeah. That's winning seeding is a huge thing.
Yeah. So obviously it was wet.
Yeah.
And most people know the score there. Jack was in a very similar boat, actually. I think you qualified 9th, did you? 7th, sorry. So, like, in the wet, I have done in the past, done a lot better. Like Maribor, it was wet, I qualified 12th. It's just like where I feel at home. So qualifying first, I know it was wet. I know that all the top boys were at a complete disadvantage to the run we had. But despite all that, my confidence for some reason was way higher. I don't know why, it just was. So the next day, obviously, it's a big day, and that amped me up a lot more. Adrenaline's pumping a lot more. Luckily, I had a good process that I go through. So I was able to just stick to, ticking the boxes and not getting hyped up on thinking about fucking it up or been on camera later or all the people watching me, blah, blah. Just literally stuck to what I did normally. And I'd done everything I needed to do all weekend. So at the top, I was in the same position I was at every other race, but I just felt a lot more amped up. And for me, that was good. Like I had a lot more kind of hunger I bet you I was putting out more watts than I had at any other race, just because, I don't know, because I was last man down the hill. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I felt like I controlled myself well. And my second split, so like the halfway point, I think it was just over 2 minutes in, I was 12th, which was by far my best split that year in the dry. And then towards the bottom, I started drifting away, thinking, I've actually done a good run here. Like, don't blow it away at the bottom. And I came into the thinking process towards the bottom of the track, and I wasn't just riding off instinct. So that's where it went wrong for me. But it was still a 25th and a great result, considering everyone after qualifying was just expecting me to put it in the bushes in the first corner, like with the pressure of last man down the hill. So yeah, it was absolutely crazy experience, and I felt I handled it well, and I hope I can do it again.
Yeah, so you enjoyed the experience of being last man down?
It was amazing. Absolutely loved it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but I feel that I didn't have such a good process I go through, then I feel like the pressure would have got on top of me, and would have put it through the bushes like everyone thought I was going to. So yeah, it's just having such a good process that I go through. I literally have a plan written down. As long as I do what's on that plan, like where's reasonable and to the best of my ability, then it's all good.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I qualified 12th at Val di Sole in 2011, I think, 11. And that was completely out of the blue. Like, it was dry, same conditions for everyone. It was like running my life. We didn't know where it would come from. And I was just doing it with my dad. I was at uni. Like, so the next day I remember being up at the top for finals. And I think Minar went down before me. I can't remember who followed me down, but I didn't have any process whatsoever. I was just there with my dad, and I had good top and middle split, and then put it in the bushes. And huge over the bars, still came 38th. But yeah, that's exactly what you say. Like, I was very conscious of that last year, and I just last year obviously all the experience, had a process, and couldn't agree more. It massively helps, keeps you calm, and it lets you still enjoy it. And I did really enjoy my run.
You were both pretty pumped, I think, with your runs, weren't you? Because you were both down near the end.
Yeah, it was great.
Cool. So after Val di Sole was Lenzerheide, Charlie 21st, Joe 23rd, and then we've talked a little bit about Snowshoe already. I do have to ask, Joe, your bike didn't turn up. Intense is an American company. How come they couldn't find you a frame?
You know where Snowshoe is, George?
I do.
Yeah, well, it is a very good question. I spoke to them. They said they didn't have anything to spare, which I completely understand, because if it was a European race, everyone's got their big trucks. A truck full of spares, there wouldn't have been a problem. But there, obviously, everyone has to fly their stuff, so it's limited supplies of spares. I'm sure they had a spare frame, but they didn't want to risk giving it to me. And then, to be fair, Nico did crash in practice, broke his leg. His bike was hanging up at the front of the pit on a stand. It wasn't offered to me. Like, I can understand it was they clearly could have done if they wanted to, but it was a nicely painted bike and all of that. Whereas on the other hand, Brennan Fairclough, he had one spare front wheel, and it was a rocky track, and he lent me his only spare wheel.
Nice.
So like, it's just who you are, what your morals are, I suppose. And Brendog was just unreal. Like, who lends their one and only spare wheel at a Rocky World Cup?
Yeah.
So,
So you then went on to out-qualify all the Scott riders. That must have been a nice feeling after the stress of getting the bike running. I think I remember you telling me you quite liked the bike. Did you enjoy riding it that weekend?
Yeah, I thought the bike was brilliant. So different. I got on it for like the second half of practice the first day, because obviously I was building it all morning. But it was a 40 mil shorter reach, which is just ridiculous. 40 mil shorter wheelbase, sorry, not reach. And it was a completely different bike. Like, luckily I was still on Fox suspension, so that was familiar. I could get to a good setting pretty much straight away. Brendog's settings in the shock, and then just my normal fork settings. But it's completely different. But I just had, like, after the first few runs, and I got kind of used to it, I just really, really enjoyed riding that bike, and the enjoyment side of it brought speed and a good result. Like, it was just simply because I was having a lot of fun on track, and that bike was a lot of fun to ride. And pretty much as simple as that. It was not a bad bike at all.
Cool. Back to the UK then, and the National Series finished at A. You won that round, and with it the series. How much did that mean to you?
Yeah, quite a lot, actually. I know a lot of the boys didn't do the full series, so it's not like I'm the British champion, but I haven't beat every top British rider, if you know what I mean. But it meant a lot to me because I finished second the previous year. I was riding for Saddleback Intense Racing UK at the time, and the British races meant a lot to them. So when I won that, obviously it meant a lot to me, but it meant a lot to them as well. So that was like important. It was something I wanted to achieve all year, and when you achieve a goal, it's a great feeling. So I was happy to tick that one off, and it's definitely a bonus.
Cool. Well, here's another stat for you, and I'm sure you're probably both aware of it already. But you've raced head-to-head 60 times over the last 7 years. The combined race times for those 60 races is Charlie Hatton, 3 hours, 27 minutes and 6 seconds. Joe Breeden, 3 hours, 28 minutes and 27 seconds. 1 minute and 27 seconds after 3.5 hours of racing.
Got him.
Are you aware of that?
No, I was not.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, that seems as good a place as any to take a quick break. We'll be back with the Revolution Bike Park big questions after these messages. On to the Revolution Bike Park big questions then. Joe, I don't think we asked you these questions first time around, so these are for all of you. First question, what's your favourite track on the World Cup circuit?
Go on, chat.
Mine would probably be Val di Sole. Just love how gnarly it is, and there's no let off the whole way down. It is just flat out relentless. That's my favourite track for sure.
Joe?
Probably enjoyed coming 11th there twice as well.
Yeah. Seems to be the common theme there. So hopefully I can beat it one day.
I'm sure.
For me, I'd say, even though I've only been there once, Maribor, I thought that was a sick track. Quite natural, like terrain. It was new, and it was new to most people, well, at least for a few years. And it was just, to me, like the way I see down, it was proper downhill. There was not a lot of pedaling. It was really technical to ride fast, and there was quite a lot of line choice, big compressions, big jumps, fast, slow. It just had everything. And yeah, to me, that was my favourite, and probably still is.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Alan, have you ridden any of the tracks? And does that kind of benefit you as a trainer?
I've not raced any of them, but I've been to basically all of the tracks on the circuit. I've been to most of them. The ones that stand out to me, I really like Andorra. It's almost like a track of two halves, and there's everything there.
Yeah.
I really like that. And the track I like, that obviously we don't go there anymore, but Chambéry I really like, because it's rare. Too often these lads will turn up to a track and there won't be anything to get butterflies in their stomach in terms of like, how the hell am I getting through that?
Yeah.
These bike park style tracks, it's about just putting the perfect run together. But when we turned up, I think 2007 was that the first time we were at Chambéry, and I just remember like abseiling down that track to try and get down it, and it was so cool for me to be on the other side of it going, good luck boys, and just see. I think Vulio's had come back for that race, and it was fascinating, how you're going to piece it together. And I remember Vulio's trying to line on this off camber and sort of getting it a little bit wrong, and then Sam Hill just almost jumps that entire section and is gone, and you almost felt that Vulio's was like, the sport's moved on, or things have moved on. And that, I think I'd like a little bit more of that in downhill. I understand completely what we're saying about hardline. They shouldn't just turn up and crash. That's not what it's about. But these guys are so good on their bikes. I wish the tracks would let them show that a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think Val di Sole is quite like that, but more Val di Sole in the wet was probably one of the gnarliest things I've ever tried to ride. One of the scariest as well. And I think Jack and Charlie would probably both agree with that.
100%.
No one ever wants to do that again.
No.
Definitely not. So this is a tough question. People have struggled with this one. Which section of a World Cup track do you find the most difficult to race? I'll let you have a think about it. I'll tell you mine. Mine is that little awkward stump section on the way to the Leogang motorway. Because if you make one mistake, you're fucked for the entire motorway because you've lost so much speed. So yeah, that's the kind of thing. That's what the question relates to.
Milway, you've observed so many tracks and important bits to tracks. You must be able to have an answer pretty sharp for this one.
Yeah, let me have a think. What's really interesting is like Fort William has had these Nadgery sections in there where You know, they take 90% of the same track down the same hill, and then they like that rock. You know, that new wood section that was just kamikaze. It's sections like that I think are really interesting, because the riders come there and they know they can throw it all away, or they can, or they can really make something of their run. Just like Jack was saying with that Leogang, the rest of that track, was it Lenzerheide or Leogang? Forgive me. Yeah. That I know exactly where you mean on that section. You come out and then you've just got that straight, and you've got all your momentum is basically you've gained it or you've lost it. And I think those sections on tracks before the World Cup at Fort William used to go, instead of into those woods, into another set of woods, and that was really nadgery and slippery, and people were sort of puzzling over different lines. To me, I think I'd love more of that. I'd love.
Yeah, Laurie said exactly the same thing last week. His was coming from the high speed Fort William into the woods.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Speed, completely changing the style.
Yeah.
Also with Fort William, you can pretty consistently ride 90% of the track flat out. But I remember last year, again, there was that one wood section that was wet, and there was a good chance that if you fully committed, you would get slightly offline and that'd be it.
Yeah.
So it was how much do I risk it through that section? Because obviously there's time to be made, but you could lose everything. Whereas the rest of the track's a lot more consistent in the speed you can ride it. You can be a lot more comfortable with riding it at a certain speed, whereas the woods is a bit more hit and miss.
I love that.
Yeah, I'd say probably Fort William as well for an awkward section. I think it was actually that 2017 World Cup season. I remember Elliot Jackson was doing the split time thing. Yeah. And I think that's the one and only time through that woods that I got it absolutely perfect. And it was the only
2 seconds into everyone.
Yeah, the only split that I've ever won.
By 2 seconds.
Yeah, I just went through that woods, as you said, absolutely kamikaze pilot, and come out the other end. And then, it was a section like that is always tricky. And also Fort William, the hip before the motorway. As soon as I'm over that hip and tyres touch the dirt on the landing, I'm like, right,
yeah,
that's me. I just bury myself now, and then I've done all I can.
Cool. Third question. Biggest crash you've had so far? I'm guessing, Joe, yours was your broken kneecap.
Yeah. Yeah. Fucking shattered leg, may as well call it.
Yeah.
Mine, probably a bit of a different one, was hardline. The first year I went, wind caught me on the step up, and just had a massive knockout basically. And that was probably the thing that affected me the most. Out of you break a bone, you heal. That's it, really. But 6-7 months after that, I couldn't look at a phone screen for more than 30 minutes. It was it took a lot of recovery after that one.
Cool. On to 2020 then. Joe, pretty much the first #Team Rumours thing I saw at the end of last season was your blog saying that the Intense UK team were closing down. No worries, I thought. After the season he'll have no trouble finding a ride, but it didn't quite pan out like that, did it? Talk us through what happened.
It was a very stressful time. So basically I was in negotiations with Insync Racing from about mid-season to go and ride for them for this year.
Yeah.
And it was all pretty settled, done and dusted. And then they had a 5-year plan to run a very big team with great backing and to hit it full ham. And basically that got cut. I can't remember the time, but I was literally waiting to sign the piece of paper. That was it. It must have been, I don't know, the time when everyone signs the contracts is probably November, something like that. Yeah. And then that got pulled from me, just out of the blue. I was ready to sign, and then the next day, it's not happening. You've got nothing, blah, blah, blah. So I had to go straight back to the drawing board. But by then, pretty much everyone's signed to a contract. All teams have lined up their riders. So I was going for a long time without a ride. I was looking into doing it as a privateer, pricing that up, speaking to individual brands, seeing how much money I could get together to do it on my own. And it wasn't a nice process. Still at this time, asking all the teams, like, can you just squeeze me on the side of your team, like, please? But there again wasn't much luck with that. So I started speaking to Polygon very late on. They weren't sure whether they could do something for me, but they were trying their best to, like, again, try and put something together for me. And then I think it was not until maybe the first couple of weeks of January that came around and I signed there. But again, that was like, they didn't know whether they could do something for me. And then that, like, same week I was signed. So it was just crazy, like the whole process of trying to find something to let me continue my career, really, because doing it as a privateer without the backing, like, financially, I don't think I could have done it.
How did the Polygon deal actually come about?
I sent the CV there like before the season was out, probably, and then he got back to me not for like a couple months, and then asking, am I still looking for something? This is Kus, the team owner, Fabian Cousin. And I said, yeah, I am actually. And then he said, let me see if I can put something together. And like, it was another month or maybe even two later that actually something got pulled together. And out of the blue, like that same week that they said they could probably do something for me, I signed. So for a long time, the whole of end of last year and even the start of this year, I had no idea what I was going to do. And I was just every day brainstorming the potential options of what I could do to help, like allow me to continue racing and try to get to where I want to be. So it was a horrible process, and I couldn't really enjoy anything. Like, I did some stuff with Charlie, but to be honest, any of my friends, I wasn't really there. Like, I wasn't happy in the moment because I was just so worried about my future, and I knew how badly I wanted to be racing. So it wasn't an enjoyable time, but luckily I'm so thankful to be a part of the Polygon team now, because that's an absolute dream for me. So it was just a bit erratic the way it all came around.
What are your new teammates like?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. I've just come back from a 3-week training camp in New Zealand with all of them. I think me and Wolfie are new this year, the enduro rider. But other than that, everyone else has been together on the team for, I think, at least 7 years. So yeah, there's a lot of knowledge, a great bonded group of people, and it's a completely different world for me. It's normally just me, my mechanic, and then the World Cup's just me and my mechanic, and now there's a whole lot of different people that can bring different stuff to the table. Just a great vibe, and I'm literally so stoked on that signing.
Mick's a good mate of mine. I've known him pretty much the whole time I've been racing, and he's got so much experience. He's helped me many times. What have you already taken from your time with him?
Well, exactly as you said, he's got so much experience, but he's so happy to share that with me as well. I don't think everyone is. So, like, we did our first race together in Crankworx Rotorua, and he actually won. I ended up 4th with a crash, but that whole weekend was very similar to how me and Charlie worked when we were on a team together. We would ride together. We would talk before the run about different lines we wanted to test out, and I'd plan to do one route and he'd do the other, like back to back behind each other. We'd talk about it at the bottom, and I had a really good vibe from him that I could believe what he was saying was true and what he honestly thought. So say if I went first and he followed, and we did a switch in line. Obviously, I can't see the time difference or what's happening behind me, but I could trust his view, and what he was telling me was true. And that's something that me and Charlie had, and it goes a long way at the races to learn which lines are quicker. And it's just a really nice working relationship. So Mick, as you say, tons of knowledge, and he's so happy to share it with me. So same with Tracy, and same with Kus and everyone else on the team. So yeah, it's a really, really good position to be in for learning from them guys.
It looked like you were on a flyer at Crankworx before the crash. How are you finding the bike?
Absolutely in love with it. Yeah, it was a big concern when I signed because it's so different. The Polygon frame is so different to anything else out there. But when now I've tested it and set it up and riding it, I'm literally so happy because everything's new. The tires are new, the brakes are new. Like every single part, apart from the pedals on that bike, is new to me. And I couldn't be happy with the setup I've got now. And it was a massive concern going to such different products.
How is it different? How does it feel different?
Well, to start with, I'm on completely different suspensions. So obviously they're still suspension. They go up and down, and it's not a drastic change, but you have to start with completely new settings. You have to find those settings and test those settings. When you play with high speed, low speed, the tokens and the fork, they all change slightly different between the forks. Like a low speed on the Suntour forks I've got won't be the same difference exactly as on the Fox fork. So you have to learn what each adjustment does again, and then find a setup that actually works. And the tires are completely different. So there's not the same tread pattern as a Maxxis. So it's learning which tires are good on which terrain, what compound works well where. There's all that sort of stuff.
Have you been on a mullet since the start?
No, I started off on the 29, back and front. I spoke to the team and I said, I'm really happy on 29. I'd quite like to stick with that. So they set it up with 29 and sent it out. And then I said, I'll give mullet just a go, just to tick it out of my head that I don't want to do it, so that I know I'm not questioning myself throughout the year. And then when I rode it, I was very pleasantly surprised at how good it was, and how comfortable I felt on it. So from that day onwards, a couple of days of testing it, and I was set on it really, which was a shock to me because I couldn't see why it would be of benefit to me just looking at it from an outside without any experience doing so.
In a nutshell, Joe, what's the benefit you found from the mullet? 'Cause I've done some testing myself, so it'd be interesting to know what you think the main benefit is.
Yeah, I think it's massively to do with the bike to start with, also the rider. But for me, it was a lot to do with my bike is designed around a 27.5-inch platform. So when I put the 29-inch wheels in, it was quite hard to get the geometry where I wanted it. My main problem was I could sort the head angle with the
Angle.
whatever you, exactly. But getting the bottom bracket to a height I was comfortable with was a much bigger challenge. So that was one of the reasons. And I didn't feel that there was any benefit from having the 29-inch wheel for me. I felt a lot more comfortable, and I preferred the riding position because of the mullet setup. But how much that was to do with the bottom bracket height, I don't know. But the situation I'm in with the bike I'm on, for me, the mullet, I believe, is faster.
Yeah, so it was basically riding too high on the 29.
Yeah.
Which is then going to definitely affect the way it corners. And then if
Yeah.
you've got a bigger wheel, that's arguably going to make it not corner as well.
Yeah, the biggest thing was my confidence in the riding position, and that confidence came from riding the mullet, not the 29.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to the confidence thing again.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever you feel comfortable and confident on, it's got to be a winner.
Charlie, what version of the Atherton downhill bike are you on now? And are you on a mullet, or are you full 29 still?
I'm still full 29. But yeah, version wise, I'm actually on P10. So, P10 I'm on at the minute. Yeah, it's been a massive learning curve for me. I think in the past, I would get on a bike, get a base set up and just crack on.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry too much about suspension setup, tires. Yeah, I'd just ride, to be honest. And over the last year, having the opportunity to be able to change literally every single thing, even down to like thickness of your tubing. So yeah, I've learned so much about how I like my bike setup and what it actually takes to get that bike that last 5-10%, because that is what makes the big difference, really.
Cool. Jack,
did you ask about, because I'm interested, G's on the mullet. Have you been tempted by the mullet at all?
Yeah, so basically we sat down at the start of off season with things I wanted to try and test. And obviously there's only so many things that are possible to test, basically. And I felt just putting a back wheel in the bike wasn't worth doing. It was either going to be a geometry setup, can't say the word, exactly for the 27 real wheel.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just thought, unless that's happening, then for me, I just felt like I had other things to focus on.
Yeah, and I don't know if Joe will agree from a coach's point of view, watching you and G, out of everyone on the circuit, does anyone ride as far back as G? Not many people
Yeah,
do.
exactly. It's
And
definitely
you're the opposite. You're on the front, leaning forwards. So G's going to buzz his ass on that back wheel, whereas I'm guessing you're not. You're like myself. I never feel the back wheel.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. So coming off the Trek, were you worried at all at the start about moving on to this newly designed beast? Was it a bit of like, oh,
Yeah, I was a bit. Obviously, it was literally brand new, and obviously it was all the experience from the Athertons and Dave Weigel, so I knew that it was going to be good, and if it wasn't, then it would be changed. So yeah, I wasn't worried as such. It was more for me, the first bike that I got on, it was how I could develop that and how I could give the feedback to suit how I like it.
So that was our next question. How much input have you been allowed to have with changes to geometry and things like that?
Yeah, so yeah, mine and G's bikes are quite different, to be honest. I've got a shorter rear end and a slightly different geo to him, obviously different rider weights and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, massive impact. Prime example, it was Val de Sol. I just couldn't get on with the bike. Just didn't feel comfortable on it, even though that was my best result. It was just, I felt like I needed just slightly shorter reach. And then it was a back-to-back race to Lenzerheide. And someone actually flew out with my obviously the feedback from the Sunday after the race. Flew out then on Thursday with a brand new bike, just been built, freshly printed, ready to race.
Wow.
With a shorter reach.
Yeah, with a shorter reach, yeah.
Quality.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a bit of a rush because basically the bike needs time to cure. So to speed up that process, you can use heat basically. So driving to the airport and driving to the race venue, there was an electric blanket on the bike. So basically, increase the time. So yeah, it was pretty mental, really.
So obviously off the back of Val de Sol, you said you've gone there and you've thought, I don't feel comfortable and I think it's my reach.
Yeah.
You then come 11th. I'm assuming this bike was a bike you felt comfortable on before Val de Sol, so at National Champ.
Yeah. It was always in the back of my mind that I thought,
okay,
to be honest, I think shorter reach is going to be the way.
Okay, so Val de Sol confirmed that, because my question was going to be, after doing so well, and Lenzerheide being so different to Val de Sol, why did you change it? But I think you've just answered that by saying you were already doubting anyway.
I think it was before National Champs as well that I went to a slightly smaller frame again.
Okay.
And it was after Val de Sol that I thought, hang on a minute.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. And I know everyone seems to be going the opposite way, bigger bikes. And yeah, I don't think that's the way, personally.
It's just got to feel right, hasn't it?
It was something I noticed in Snowshoe. I was very happy. Well, I was kind of happy with the size I was at on my M29, but then riding that Scott that I was forced to ride because it was my only option, I would never have chosen to ride a bike that was 40 mil shorter. But after doing so, it really opened my eyes to the benefits of a shorter bike and the enjoyment that a shorter bike brought to me and the importance of that. So that definitely helped influence my decision to size as a bike this year. But I didn't really think about going smaller because no one talks about that. No one is going that way anymore.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I actually was forced into a position where I had to ride it where I thought, hang on a minute, like, I really like this.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree.
It's a lot like, I don't know, it's just the way everyone goes. Everyone just follows the wave, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily the right thing.
Yeah, my years on the Geometrons, I was always encouraged to ride bigger bikes. And since being on the Commensal, I've always ridden the large. And everybody always thinks, what? Why are you not riding the XL? And It's because I don't want to. Like, that large with the 6 mil reach adjust feels perfect, and I'm not just going to ride a bigger bike because somebody tells me I should do. Like,
But until you test those things, you never know, eh?
exactly.
Charlie, I believe your bike's had a few tweaks coming into this year. Can you tell us a bit more about what you've done?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So obviously the main thing would be sizing. So we've gone shorter rear end, and then for myself a shorter front end as well.
Well,
Um,
Do you know your reach offhand? Just so that people.
yeah. So reach is 465,
Yeah, so that is small,
and
comparable to your height.
yeah, and then rear end's 450. So I changed 10 mil on the rear end.
Yeah.
So it was 460. So that's
60.
a lot shorter now.
But 460 is long.
Yeah, that is really long. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the comments are ridiculously short as well, though.
And they've made it shorter, yeah. So
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But we grow so much in the travel that it kind of
Yeah.
it was needed. It corners better now.
Then other things that have changed are so flexibility actually. So basically on the swing arm there was no brace. So it was unbelievable, flat corners, the grip, it would just hang on. But you get into like a bigger berm and you could just feel it start to fold almost.
Wow.
So we've actually increased the thickness of the lug on the swing arm, and then there's now a brace on the chainstay as well to stiffen it all up.
Okay.
So that's something we've changed this
Cool.
season.
So we were going to ask about whether the structure with the lugs and the carbon changes the kind of the ride characteristics. It sounds like it's more flexible.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think the sidewall was like 1.25 mil and we increased it to 1.75 mil. So
Just to try and make it a little stiffer.
yeah, just a little stiffer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it did work to be fair. So
That's cool. I love the testing you guys are doing with that.
yeah, you can be, it's crazy how in detail you can get with it.
Yeah.
I think you can almost get in too much detail.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, it's a tricky one.
it is the craziest thing I find about you guys is that you could ride down the far side and put a time, the three of you, within kind of 2 seconds. You could probably do that 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
And the reason I've never done like the testing with JTech on the setup and stuff is because I can't.
Yeah, the consistency.
I can't do it that consistently. I'll make a mistake,
Yeah.
after, and it'll put 5 seconds difference in, and so there's no point kind of almost doing the setup because I can't compare. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, other areas that you think you could work on to make it more valuable, I guess.
Yeah. And feeding back to what Laurie said last week is I have to watch if I'm racing. I can't do too many runs. You guys might agree with this because I'll just get too comfortable and then I'll struggle to push to race pace because I've just got too used to just repeating a good speed. If you're testing, it's good to be the other way around and just be super comfortable and just be able to do like 90% run over and over and over again, so that when your suspension technician changes something, you're not just like ragging down the hill recklessly and coming back going, well, I don't know, I almost hit that tree and then I nearly hit that rock, at the back of that berm. And see, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something that comes with experience as well, like knowing that you can do that 90% run after run after run. Else it's almost your timing, but if you're just on the edge the whole way down, yeah, you could be 2 seconds quicker, but run before you was offline or in the bush. So
I think timing is such a double-edged sword with testing, isn't it? Because I know when I've been out to lose many a time, and that sort of no pedal, those efforts that you can repeat and repeat and repeat, that you can then gauge the changes based on the stopwatch. But this winter, I won't mention the team, but they were timing every single run, and it almost turned into a bit of a competitive, who's going to get the fastest run. And I think that doesn't necessarily help testing in essence, because you're not focused on, just like Charlie was saying, just getting that consistency and understanding the bike, you're just going full ham because you're like, shit, I better beat my teammate. And
Yeah.
the whole approach to it is really important to get right, I think.
Cool. Charlie, you're on the new Fox 40s. I've not tried them, but I've heard that they've sacrificed a bit of the kind of mid-stroke support that Fox are famous for to try and generate more grip. Is that what you've found?
Yeah, first thing I noticed was basically 40-50%. So the start of the travel, like I've not felt anything like it. Super plush and flat corner grip is insane. And then I thought there was actually more ramp up because say in the 49s last year, I was running 7, sometimes 8 tokens.
Right.
Now on the new forks, I'm in between 3 and 4. So it's like, and still struggling to bottom out. And so, I wouldn't say the mid strokes gone. I'd say, it's definitely more supple off the top though.
Cool. And you're both on the trick stuff brakes. Is that right? Are you on them, Joe?
Yes, absolutely. That'll blow your mind.
I know. Neil on our team has got them, and I've never. It's like another level compared to everything else.
Different brake, yeah. Literally, the first time I tried them, like on a normal brake, you could feather down the straight, but you wouldn't really notice it.
Yeah.
Like maybe touch, but these I started feathering, and I was like, I'm going backwards. Like, I can't believe how sensitive they are and how powerful they were. It's insane.
Cool.
I just find it hard to believe how they can produce a brake that much better than anything else out on the market.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand it, but I suppose it's because they're hand built and the attention to detail is just next to none.
Just has it changed your riding, having a brake that's that powerful?
I'm not sure because I think when you're locked up, you're locked up.
Yeah.
That just doesn't really matter brake to brake, but I think it's the feel of the lever that's helped me the most. So you pull a trick stuff brake and then you pull any other brake and you notice the weight of the lever is so light on the trick stuff. And if you imagine doing, say you pull the brake 50 times down a run and you do that with a lighter pull, it's going to be so much easier on your arms. So I think that is a big benefit.
Cool. So 2020,
sure.
When we do get going, then what are the hopes and dreams for you both? What are the targets you'd set?
My goal would be just consistent. Really, I think last year I was a bit hit and miss. I had some good standout results and then some that were just pretty appalling really. So it's I'd like to be more consistent really in the top 20 and try and break into the top 10 as well, I guess.
Cool. Joe?
Yeah, for me it's to be consistently in and around the top 20. I got into there at the back end of last year, but I want to be in there from the off, though God knows if we'll ever have an off. But so that and then national champs is one I definitely want to win, but there's so many. I can tell you Charlie sat there wants to win it, Jack probably wants to win it. There's 10 riders who want to win it, who could win it. So I'm just one of those. I really, after third last year, like I don't want another third. Like that'd be great, but no, you want to win. So champs is a big focus. Yeah, through the Cool.
So, Alan, do you think they're realistic ambitions, and how far do you think Joe and Charlie can go?
Well, the difference between Joe and Charlie, you just sort of heard them there. I think Joe will nail his colours to the mast straight away, and he'll tell you exactly what he wants, and he writes it down, and he's very, like I was saying earlier, really methodical. And I think Charlie keeps his cards close to his chest a little bit, and he just wants to let his riding do the talking, and he is.
I say exactly that. I can sit here knowing that Charlie wants to win national champs, but he won't necessarily say it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Quite, and I think that's character. That's character. That's the personality trait. And with these guys, they've got everything that they need really. and just building that. The challenge we've got at the moment really is knowing, I've talked to these guys about it, and I had a really interesting conversation with Greg, when we're on the phone about this, is like, he's wanting to know what are we training for. And it is quite difficult because, I'm doing a load of reading around and seeing what other coaches are doing in other sports to prepare their guys. And some of them are going quite high intensity, and they're thinking they're going to have a really condensed season. And we're just trying to debate it. And I'm trying to work out when the start is, because you can't, when we were finishing or prepping for Loser, we thought Loser was happening. So we were getting really, really fine and sharp and like, right, bang, we're ready to go. And then we were ready for a bit of a downturn in training because we had races. Yeah. And then we were going to build back up to get ready for the next race, blah, 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 all planned. All of a sudden, that's out the window now. And you can't just go on blindly. And we're trying to sort of have a bit of a holding pattern to understand what's happening and where we're going. And I really want them to come into racing in the best form. And that's quite difficult at the moment because we don't know when that will be. I think I've got no knowledge further than my gut that I think that we'll probably be racing later. And when you think about that, if we're racing into October, and let's be honest, I don't really see why we couldn't be racing in November. We might have to go to the Southern Hemisphere to do it, but I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if there were a few sort of curveballs being thrown in there, and that's almost 6 months away. And so you've got to look at that big picture. So I think the sooner we get some form of indicator from the UCI, it would really help. Yeah. But I'm always brought back to home about, my next door neighbor, like her father passed away from coronavirus in a nursing home, and she couldn't say goodbye to him. And we're racing bikes, it's mental. It's a really, really difficult situation. And I think everything is in perspective now. And I really hope that we can get through this, and then we can see what's to come and get excited about that, because we're so excited. I think it really showed. I miss racing so much. Yeah. When your Facebook things 6 years ago, and I was in bloody South Africa racing or whatever, and I was like, that feeling. And if I'm feeling that, you can only imagine what you lads are feeling. So hopefully we'll get that buzz and we'll get excited to go racing, whenever that may be.
Cool. Well, look, best of luck to you all, and when we do eventually get going, and thanks to you all for coming on the show. I really, really enjoyed that, and I hope the listeners do too. Where's the best place for people to keep track of your progress, guys? Is it Instagram for you all?
Yeah, I'd say Instagram for me, yeah.
At Charlie_Hatton1?
Yeah, that's right.
Joe?
Instagram for me too. Yeah. Maybe don't go on my Instagram recently, actually. I've gone a bit nuts.
You have, haven't you?
Yeah.
I like the cooking one.
Yeah. I was crying.
Yeah, I think I need to stop that and start posting some riding stuff again, because I might lose all my followers if I'm not careful.
You've got some months to mess around, I think, mate.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm enjoying them.
It's at Joe_Breeden 17, I believe.
Yeah, that's me.
At Alan Milway.
Yeah, that's me. That's the best place to see up what I'm up to.
Jack?
Yeah, Jack Reddin _MTB, and then the YouTube is just Jack Reddin for Mountain Bike Life. I'm going to film a day in the life episode tomorrow. I'm going to try and wake up and actually be excited and do some training and some riding and film and edit. And,
Excellent. Well, we're at Making Up the Numbers Racing. Just before we wrap up, there's just two things I wanted to ask. The first is for you, Charlie. Pete Little is the current GB Grand Veteran National Champion, and you're going out with his daughter. What's it like having Pete as a prospective father-in-law?
Well, I've been whipping him into shape recently, ready for the season. So, yeah, I've become his PT at the minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How fast do you think Pete could actually be if he did some training? Because
he was saying, when he was having this conversation last night, he said, problem is my fitness and my skill level match. He said, if I'm fitter,
you're going to crash a lot.
I just crash more.
Right.
It works like that, mate.
I know it's something he usually kind of keeps to himself, but has he ever told you that he was the powerboat world champion?
Yeah, I've heard that one, yeah. 4 times as well, actually.
You can like be on an uplift and you hear it within like 2 minutes of the uplift starting that he's telling someone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a proud moment, a proud time in his life, I think.
Indeed. Second
Yeah.
question, Alan. I attended one of your workshops in October last year, and so I'm just kind of keen to know just how impressive was I?
Animal.
What were the watts, Milway?
Very impressed, George. I was very impressed. 100% for effort.
I had no doubts I would leave you open-mouthed.
Hey, I've seen Johnny Thompson hold your man boob, so I don't want to see you in the gym ever again.
Well, just to let you know, Alan, I haven't lost any of the weight I promised I would, and nor have I done any of the upper body work we discussed, but I have made a lot of excuses and adjusted my expectations accordingly. Thanks very much to our sponsors for the podcast, Hope Technology, Revolution Bike Park, Schwalbe, and SingleTrackWorld.com. We'll be back with another episode very soon. Thanks very much for listening.